Welcome to MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. Each week, I talk with industry leaders on both marketing and entrepreneurship and business to find out all about their wins and failures in marketing right now. We'll hear all about successes and wins and what's fallen flat so that you can take that knowledge and implement it. Learn from the best, from the folks who've been there and done it all, as well as people just like you. Thanks for joining us. This is MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers.
Hello and welcome to another episode of MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. This afternoon, I'm joined by Lawrence Howlett. Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
All good, thank you. Lovely to be on the show.
Lovely to have you along. And I can see you've got a green wall behind you. I love that. That's very different. It saves you a lot of fit.
And it's fake. You can actually touch it. It's not a. It's not.
You don't have to wear it, right?
Yeah,
But you do have to dust it now and again.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So if you're watching along at home, Lawrence is the director at moredemand.io, which is a lead gen agency that excels in generating high intent leads for competitive sectors like finance, debt and claims, which I know is a really tough niche section. I've worked on the other side of things, from the customer service side of things, and I know how important that side of things is. So with over £5 million spent on Google search ads, Lawrence also has a proven track record of delivering results that are valuable and impactful. He's also the founder of Money Saving Advisors and Value Life, who are companies dedicated to improving consumer financial decisions. Lawrence combines AI technology with innovative marketing strategies to help businesses grow and stay competitive in the digital landscape. That's a lot. That's a tremendous bio, Lawrence, I have to say. Three businesses, I guess, 2 organizations and a business, right? Like, how did you get on that journey in the first place?
So a quick summary of where we got to. So out of university, studied entrepreneurship at university, then became a commercial DJ for 7 years. And oddly, that was probably the most impactful training that you could have from sales and marketing point of view, because one, you have to get people to turn up to your nights, because otherwise you're DJing to mates. And secondly, you being on stage and trying to control the crowd and get them with you and get them, into the night and enjoying the journey that you're taking them on, requires a strategic approach and then tactics within the night when you're playing something that you thought would work and then doesn't. So finished DJing because I was nocturnal and couldn't do it anymore. And then, I was getting older. So finished that, started a web design agency, sold that 8 years ago now. And then went and did some consulting in the city for Societe Generale and some other banks, and started up getting into finance lead gen through that. We launched their short and leveraged ETP funds for sophisticated investors, which sounds wonderfully complex and is overly complex and, is what the city folk love to hear. But, essentially it was right. How do we get these people in a room to talk to us about this product? So that's sort of where that journey started. And then lead gen became more of a thing. I noticed that more advisors, brokerages, intermediaries, claims management companies, etc. The lifeblood of any business is its leads. So I was like, well, what's not going to go anywhere for the rest of my career? Lead gen. So that's sort of where we are of 20 years of, I'm 41 now. So 20 years of being in business, never had a job for anyone else, and, always worked for myself. So, that's sort of where we are now.
That's amazing. And I guess Money Saving Advisors and Value Life then are your attempt to mitigate some of the challenges in the economic climate for your average, for the people that I guess nobody really wants to find leads in debt collection, right? Like it's a necessary job. But
so Money Saving Advisors, we do consumer credit protection. So things like specialist lending, so secured loans, mortgages, things like life insurance, health insurance, income protection, the stuff that needs advice, pensions, drawdowns, annuities, etc. Value Life's a different proposition that we're still we're pre-launch really with Value Life. It's the conception is that, unfortunately, we all have our demise, and the planning for that, like we've got competitors like Fairwill and others have done it online to create an online will writing app. But my idea goes beyond that to actually create something that makes the execution of that will very simple for the executors. So at the moment, when someone dies, you have to phone up all the financial institutions and go, right, I'm going to bring in the death certificate, right, close that account, right, I have to actually go into branch, do this, do that, the executors are phoning up endless number of, financial institutions, especially if the person's got some wealth and, insurance policies, etc. And all of those financial institutions have to have people on the phone to pick that up, then to process it, etc. So Value Life's more about creating an open banking version and protocols around winding up someone's estate. So that's kind of where we're going with that, where you could imagine a blockchain system that has the ability to go out to these financial institutions, verify that that person has died, that they, have got that particular thing, bring that into an escrow account, and then distribute it to the beneficiary. So that's the vision for Value Life, but that requires law changes and all sorts, because we're still in the 1800s where we require wet signatures on things. So, but fast forward 20 years, that will be a thing of the past, I'm sure.
I think that would be an amazing business to be able to bring about, because having recently, well, not recently, but 2-3 years ago, went through that with my dad's estate. And not to, he didn't have much to his name, right? Like it's a humble background, but even then, I just didn't want to be on the phone to people. I didn't want to have to ring people and tell people and send certificates out, wait for certificates to come back. I just wanted to get on with the grieving process. And it was, some of the experiences were horrendous and others were just really, really nice and simple. So I think some businesses are already kind of seeing the value of the elements of that, but I love the idea of bringing all that together. I think that's a really, it's got a good purpose behind it, which I love. Purpose-centric products, I think they're just so easy to market as well. It's a nice, refreshing change, but good luck with that, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but I think would be wonderful to leave as a legacy and an impactful change that, like you said, and I'm sorry for your loss, by the way. It's not a nice thing to go through, and it re-brings up the grief every time that you have to make a call about another policy, etc. So if we could make that very simple for the average person who's not got, financial training, etc., the background, I think that's a big win.
100%. And then before we dive into a little bit more about More Demand, you used to race against Lewis Hamilton. What's that about?
That's right. I don't know where you got that fact from, but it is true. So from 8 years old, again, this is my competitive nature. From 8 till 16, I raced karts, and our era was known as the golden era of karting. By that, I mean that the British Super One, which was the pinnacle of karting at that point, we didn't have the likes of the Worlds and the Europeans back then in the same format. And if you look at the group that I grew up with through karting, we have Lewis Hamilton, Anthony Davison, Jenson Button, Paul di Resta, all Formula One drivers. Susie Stoddart, as she was when I knew her, but now Susie Wolff, Toto's wife. And you've got a plethora of endurance drivers that are in, LMP1 cars, are in, all these 24-hour races. So that era was a wonderful time to spend with my dad as well. 8 years of karting together every other weekend up and down the country. And I've just started my son karting as well. So, and he gets a 2-year head start on me. So he's only 6,
Wow.
but they now have a class called Bambinos, which send 6 to 8 year olds out on a grid together, and they all go into the first corner flying at 45 mile an hour. So it's, it's very interesting.
I can imagine. I've just got my son into goalkeeping, which you'd think sounds a lot safer, but it's actually not. When I saw the first couple of kids kick him in the head the other day, and I stood there and thought, oh, what have I done? But when you consider that when he stubs his toe, it's the end of the world. But when he gets kicked in the head of the game, he stands up and laughs in their face. I don't know what I've raised. I don't know what's going on there. So back to the topics in hand then. Moredemand.io.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for the show. I'm Paul, founder here at Javelin Content Management. We specialize in getting ideas out of your head, down into video, and out to your social media through repurposing and efficient content strategies. If you want to find out how you can convert your ideal audience into paying customers, reach out to us, javelincontent.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
How do you differentiate your lead gen approach from kind of the traditional methods in that what is a very competitive financial and insurance sector, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So for us, it comes down to, and I just wrote a LinkedIn post on this about putting yourself in the shoes of the consumer. And, that's a cliche, but I simplify our approach to creating offers, to creating hooks that, and I've drawn this little map for ages, and I'll get a client in and I'll go, right, let's draw a sad face on the left, happy face on the right, draw a bridge. Your company's the bridge. Your list down the middle is the things that you do, the jobs that need to be done to get them to that happy place. So let's dive into, what are they feeling at the moment? So we just tested a landing page where we had an image of someone, of a hand holding a mobile phone with like a mock-up of a quote on it. And we tested that versus like a Zen-like image, where they're like this on the page. And the reason with the Zen image won is because we were thinking about the customer and what position they're in, what they want. They're feeling stressed and they want the outcome of feeling Zen-like with their money. So we're just trying to understand the real customer position at the moment and how can we take them on a journey that explains, that educates, that helps them, and gives them a good outcome. And the question that I always ask, and because lead gens, it's been a horrible industry for a lot of years, and a lot of sharks in the industry, a lot of people that will just resend old data and call them new leads, that will run non-compliant landing pages, et cetera, et cetera. And it's frustrating when you're trying to play by the books. But what I'm getting back to is, and this is the question I always ask myself, would I be happy with my mum going through this journey and getting the outcome? And if I'm not, then I won't run it, moral compass. But how do we differentiate in more demand? I'm not sure it's about differentiation. This happens a lot in a lot of, startup gurus, et cetera. I always talk about, right, well, how are you going to differentiate? Look, I've got a mate who's a multi-millionaire from selling bacon. And it's not about differentiation for him. It's about his network. It's about who he knows, how he can distribute. It's about how he processes his business. So the differentiator doesn't have to be like this big thing. It can just be that you do the thing a lot better.
Yeah.
You've got a better process. You've got better people. You deliver a better result. That can be the differentiator. It doesn't have to be like this special magic thing that you've got. It can just be, that you do things better. So we've developed a method called the accelerated growth method that looks at all these pillars of the business. So it will look at the lead gen, then it will look at the dial-in strategy of those leads. Right, what's your follow-up strategy on that? How are you getting reviews in? How are you aligning all of that to the ideal client profile that you want to get into the client? Are you getting enough of that mix of those ICPs into the funnel? What hooks and offers are working well? Have you tested different hooks and offers recently? So we're a sort of data-driven, test orientated firm that will apply our accelerated growth method that we've now, and we've only got a handful of clients because our clients spend hundreds of thousands a month on Google ads. So we're not about sort of spending $1,000 or so on Google Ads, we're looking at, how can we take someone that's spending 50 grand and scale them to $250,000 on Google Ads with the same, or typically it's a bit of a less ROAS because you're stretching revenue and you'll take a gross margin hit, but the overall profitability is more, right? So, that's kind of verbal diarrhea of how we approach things at more demand.
Well, I think that's an interesting outcome, though, and I often say to people is, we always have this really grand image of differentiation, and it makes people panic. Everybody stands there and like, how am I going to differentiate myself? And more so in the professional services sector than anywhere else, we're scared to differentiate because we don't want to look unprofessional. And rightly so, right? You've got to make sure you keep that trust in the professional services sectors, insurance, banking, wherever. And what I say to people is it's not about differentiate. You don't have to differentiate yourself by putting big floppy clown shoes on, right? It's about, sometimes it's about the business itself and like how they're different. Not that the service or the product or anything else is any different realistically from what else is out there in the market, but how is it sourced? Are you more ethical? Are you more moral? Are you hold yourself to a higher standard? Are you more reliable? Are you nicer? Are you, there's all these things that you can differentiate yourself with. And I find a lot of people in that space are quite cold professional, but somebody who can show a bit of personality behind that to say, do you know what? This is who we are. We are the people that stand behind this. To your point, exactly. Would I put my mum through this? That is a great statement to hit the people like, this is how we approach business. And moving on from that, you have Emma. Would you like to tell the folks that are listening on at home who Emma is? She's very important to your business, right?
Yeah. So Agent Emma is our AI chatbot that operates over SMS. And what she can do is, so this works well where you have a high lead volume call center and you have a funnel that has leaks in it. So it might leak because of no contact. That's the obvious one. So 100 leads through the door, you speak to 60 of them, 40 never answer the phone, right? So there's that cohort of data that you can go after. You then might identify some other cohorts. So say this is a mortgage business and you've got people that are not sending their documents back. So you need SA 302s or bank statements or ID. Emma can go out and chase that. But it's more than just a SMS that goes out. Emma can actually have in-depth conversations and contextual conversations that allows you to, for example, set up an appointment, collect a payment, answer FAQs. She can then do credit checks. We could run AML and KYC stuff, know your customer and anti-money laundering. Anything that we can hook to an API. I mean, we've just built one for housing disrepair claims that will allow the client to upload an image to WhatsApp. We then go and analyze that image for the severity of the damage to the property. So if they've got, a water leak and there's mold and up the wall, they take a photo of it and then it will assess the damage and the causation of it. So the stuff that you can do is pretty frightening in that respect. So that's what we're building Agent Emma, and each case is different. So, we've built one for PCP car claims, where she will mop up on data that's not provided, not gone through the credit check, not signed a letter of authority, not signed the DSARs, etc. So that we can then process that claim. So she is a business processing agent that can work 24/7, never takes a holiday, is always on, and can have really, really in-depth conversations.
I like the idea that it's not just limited to like the average chatbots. I've got a set amount of things that I can respond to here, but I've also got this wider, deeper context over here. Do you want to go down that route? You can go there. I think from experience, I've got got a weird background in terms of understanding conversational AI and chatbots and stuff, so I understand it probably better than most. I think that the biggest thing that a lot of people come back with is, yes, but I get stuck in a loop. So I'm assuming you've got that capability to then hand back to the agents. For those people that do want to actually speak on the phone, she can then kind of arrange those appointments and move that on, right?
Yeah, reschedule appointments, manage appointments, notify of missed appointments, etc. So, and she can take contextual answers to questions, statements like, "Yeah, Tuesday at 4ish," and she'll reply, "Oh, is 4:15 better for you?"
Amazing.
So she has those. It just feels human. And we depending on what job she's doing. So if it's in a regulated space or non-regulated space, we also have worker bots that sit behind Emma that will check her for compliance. So for example, one of our bots is trained with the NCOB handbook from the FCA. That's its training literature. And we run every single reply through that and then give it a rating to whether we think she's leaning into giving advice or not. And if she's anywhere near giving advice, we ask her to reconsider her answers so that we can then repost that again. So we've thought about the compliance angle as well. And obviously she's trained on the customer sales literature, etc. Because when we onboard a client, we say, well, look, imagine Emma as a new starter. What material would you give a new starter in this role? So then we collect all that documentation, feed that in. We take call transcripts from the call center, both positive and negative outcomes, and put that into a transcription, and then pull out themes of conversations, etc., so that they know how to steer that conversation. So it's it's been an interesting journey. It's not something that, because we were like, oh, we could build this into a SaaS product and it'd be great. It's just too complex. It's just too complex, and it's really a really bespoke bit of software that you integrate deeply into that business, all their different status codes in their CRM, all the different dispositions, and then you work out the cohorts of data that you think you can have a go at. And so that's what we do, and we do it on a performance only basis. So there's no setup fees, no cost to run it. We cover all the SMS costs, etc. And the ideal client for us is where there's volume of data and we can, get it working across the whole business.
Well, I know that there's some of those people in my network that'll probably be watching along to this. So if you're interested, we'll drop the details at the end, how you can get in touch with Lawrence and the team. I guess you've mentioned a couple of times Google Ads, Lawrence. You spend a considerable amount and you help people who do spend a considerable amount of money as well. What would you say the most important factors for businesses out there who are considering paid search perhaps for the first time, or maybe tweaking what they've already got to be more effective?
Don't trust what Google reps say.
You're not the first to say that.
Honestly, utter tripe. And we've got a feedback session with Google this week, and that's going to be one of the points raised. And the most frustrating thing is the recommendations, all the time, which is spend more, increase your target CPA, go broad. Now that sometimes works, sometimes definitely works. But so if you're going into Google Ads for the first time, one, understand that the first 3 months of a new account is data acquisition. You're not going to hit a home run day one. You're acquiring data and maturing the account. So we like to think of it as a hockey stick, right? So you're investing in data for the first 3 months. That's all you're doing. So yes, you're going to generate leads, but the real value comes from a mature account where you've got your negative keywords sorted. You've got your target keywords in the right order. You understand how to scale it, and that might be through going through a broad campaign. Your offline data is coming in, so that you can see what's actually working in platform. All of these things that you sort of need to tick off and we've got a Google pre-flight checklist. Another previous hobby of mine was flying, and checklists are what pilots do, right? So I run the whole business by checklists. I always have. So our pre-flight, Google pre-flight is, things like, right, have we got GTM installed? Has that got the conversion link? Or are we tracking enhanced conversions? Are we, putting offline data into platform? Have we got custom columns created so that we can see our lead to quote, quote to sale percentages, down to keyword and ad level? All of these things that we want to set up. So if you go into Google and use its AI to write your ads, etc., you're going to just waste money. You've got to have a test plan. What are you going in with? Who do you want to come through this funnel? Why is it important that they come through this funnel? And what do we want to test and learn during this period? That's the reality of it. Yes, you can get some ads up and running very quickly, but to really get their account spending in those tens of thousands, you have to have a test plan. You have to know what you're testing, why you're testing, and then make sure that you've got the analytics to be able to analyze the outcome.
I can imagine that at home there's two sorts of people listening to all of that. And the first lot are furiously scribbling things down so they can try and remember what to look for and kind of self-educate themselves. And the other sort have just gone, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to get someone to do that for me. I need to find someone who can do all that for me, right? How did you guys just get started out through test and iterate yourselves? Did you work with partners and find that frustrating, or where did it go?
So we tested by the School of Hard Knocks. It was get my Amex card out and spend some money and learn the hard way, to be honest. So, and you soon learn what works and what doesn't, and it's changing. It's changing. We've typically run really tight exact match campaigns, really heavy negative campaigns, and they still outperform some of the others. But broad match recently has been working in some sectors. Now, in some others, it just brings back, because Google doesn't know the difference between a second charge mortgage and a normal mortgage, and you can't negative out the word mortgage because second charge mortgage has it in. So it just brings back, first time buyer mortgage and stuff that's irrelevant to a second charge loan. So in some senses it doesn't work, but others where it's got a product set where there aren't those nuances and you can go a bit broader, it works where you're feeding in offline data and staying on top of negs. But again, with broad match, you've got to have a test plan. Like what are you testing? Why are you testing it? What offers are we going to test? That's always the first thing that I tell the guys about, is like, okay, what offer do we want to test here? Is it a top 5 page? Is it a compare page? Is it a free quote? Is it a check if you qualify? Like what's the thing that we want to test, and make sure that marries up with the landing page so that when they click on it, we're delivering on our promise of the ad. So that's the first place to start. And I don't think that changes from whatever business. Even if you're a coffee shop, you could put a sign out the front and then you could test another sign the next week. Did you get more footfall? What were the variables? Was it raining this week? Right, there weren't as many people in town. Was it raining this week? There's more people on the internet. So, a lead volume
scientifically.
Exactly. You have to think about outside variables as well. Every time Martin Lewis goes on the telly and talks about will writing or something like that, boom, leads go up. But typically they're not good quality lead because they're all knee-jerk reaction ones. They're not people that have been in market and thinking about it. So we tend to turn off if that happens. We've got software that watches for those sudden spikes and will go and pause campaigns. But these are all things that you learn over time.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just going out and putting some money onto your Google account and hoping for the best, as I know a lot of Google account managers would have you believe. Brilliant. Well, drawing to an end of the episode, I've got a couple of questions that I ask all the guests. So kind of these are usually quite short and snippy answers. But what's one thing that really gets your goat in terms of either digital marketing or more traditional marketing that you see a lot of other business owners using that you just wish they would stop? What grinds your gears?
Non-compliance. Really frustrating. I've now started calling people out for it on LinkedIn. And I will take a screenshot of your landing page and I will post it on LinkedIn. I'm fed up with it. We should have a level playing field that is compliant, that is treating the consumer fairly, and headline rates of 3% on a secured loan just not achievable. The Bank of England rate is 5%. So non-compliance is really annoys me.
It's interesting because we actually had Sarah Jane Black on the show a couple of weeks back, and she's basically a consultant that goes out and helps businesses with their compliance as part of her consulting work and operations. So it's interesting to speak to somebody who's on the receiving end of people who aren't compliant as a follow-up. And what's one thing that you, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you have more businesses start doing that would make them ultimately much more successful in terms of a market and strategy or tactic?
Working closer with lead generators. So there is a view that you put 100 leads in, we're going to get X number of sales, and that's going to happen every single week, week in, week out. And unless you work really closely with the lead generator and have a communication channel going where you go, well, actually my top salesperson left, because normally we'll get a phone call and say, oh, leads are crap this week, and you go, what's happened your side? Let's be frank, what's happened? Oh, we had a new dialer put in, or we had a certain person leave, or it's been sunny outside in late September, October. Well, they're not out there making the last of the summer, right? So that sort of culture of not blaming, but finger pointing as such needs to be overcome, and you need to be able to weather storms together. That's my statement. I'm going, look, that's why we have this sort of more pay on performance model where we're in it together. We don't get paid unless you make profit. So that's what aligns us there.
So I was going to sum that up. I'd probably say communication, collaboration with your close business partners, rather than dump and run and find somebody else in 2 to 3 months who's gonna, because you're right. Like I think relationships for marketing partners are really hard to find the good ones. There's a lot of shady people out there, shady businesses, or just businesses who are built on, they're quite happy to have that churn because they'll just drag more leads in and churn and drive more leads and churn. They don't care about the reputation. So for those of us who do really value our reputation, when you do find us, it's a case of like, I can only do so much if you don't tell me what you know. And bringing the two worlds together, I like that. That's really useful. Thank you, Lawrence. If the guys at home are interested to find out a bit more about More Demand or Emma or Money Saving Advances or yourself, how will we best to contact you these days?
LinkedIn's always a good shout. Lawrence Howlett, LAW. That's probably the best place, or visit moredemand.io. All the details are there.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for being a fantastic guest, Lawrence. Really enjoyed the conversation, mate.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. Contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Your host today was me, Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Here at Javelin, we specialise in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. We describe it as getting ideas out of your head into video and out to your socials. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximise your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next Wednesday for the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a review. Our podcast is only possible with your continued support.